the more equipment we have, the more we can help everybody else. You know, we can help ourselves, we can help our friends, we can help our family, help neighbors. You know, and sometimes it's just, you know something and you think to tell somebody else, and and then they have the opportunity to reap the benefits from it as well. Wow, this is a really global presentation. People from everywhere. Hello to Wales. 1 a.m. Hi, Nanette. Let's have a look. Now, if you have questions during the webinar, so we've got a chat. There's also the Q&A. So if you've got questions, please put them in the Q&A. And when we get to the end, if there's something that I haven't answered during the webinar, we will go through those questions. The team at Spooky's End will also be typing furiously while I'm talking and answering a lot of the questions for you in the Q&A. If you put something in the chat, you may get answers from other members who are joined in here. But because the chat can get so busy, it's not checked for questions. So if you've got a question, please do put that in the Q&A. Oh, and hello from Japan and Scotland. Oh, that is fantastic. Manchester, UK, Jervis Bay. Awesome. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. And hello, Stan from Texas. Texas is on my to visit list. When I retire, I am coming to America. And Texas and Colorado, they're on my hit list because two of my favorite preachers reside there. Central Mexico, hello. Gosh, that is absolutely fantastic. And it's just hit 12 o'clock, so we can start. Oh, and Annette says other trainers are watching. Well, I hope other trainers are watching because I'm actually presenting a lot of material from other trainers, in particular, Jonathan Ellis. So let's get started. So we're here today to talk about imprinting. So the first thing I want to look at is what is frequency imprinting? What tools can you use to do your imprinting? What's the best material to imprint? How many frequencies can you use? How long is it going to take? How long will it last? And then I'm going to chat about imprinted water and plants and seeds. Now, if at any stage you don't have some of the equipment that we're going to be discussing and you want to get it, Spooky have given me a code here at the bottom, which is on the bottom of the slides, and they will give you a 5% discount until the 20th of March 2025. So let's get started. So what is frequency imprinting? So the idea is that everything in our world, including ourselves, operates at a specific frequency or vibration. So usually when we're talking about rifing, we're talking about using that specific frequency or the mortal oscillatory rate, and we're talking about applying something's frequency to itself in order to shatter a pathogen, and that's the sort of the principle of rifing. But there's also another side to it, which is we can use frequencies to entrain things to good health, or sometimes with frequency imprinting, we might want to imprint things like pain stickers, or I have actually imprinted multivitamins. It's really only limited by your imagination and what you think you would like to try. Okay, this is a very experimental side to the Spooky equipment. So, experiment, see what happens, report back, and then more of us can try it as well. So it's the process of transferring specific frequencies into different materials. You can imprint into food, water, crystals, essential oils, or holographic stickers. And I'm sure you can imprint into a lot more than that. I have actually imprinted into jewellery on occasion, such as rings, necklace pendants, dog collars, a copper bracelet. It's really, if you think something can hold a frequency, have a go and let's see what we can do with this. So really when we're frequency imprinting, the aim is to transfer, in general, healing frequencies rather than the pathogenic killing frequencies. So we're trying to support energy flow, promote healing, and restore balance within the body. It's of benefit to people who want to improve their overall health and vitality. And I have found it really, really useful, not just for myself, but particularly when I'm working with pets, because it's not always easy to stick TENS pads on a little hairy cat or a hairy dog, or, or even to get them to sit still between the scaler. Sometimes I'll catch my pets and I'll put them in a metal crate and put the scaler outside, but, it's not perfect. Whereas if I can put them in the crate for a scan and then imprint into their water or imprint into a crystal that I'm popping in their bed, I find that can work really, really well. And I also would say that I find animals are very, very receptive to frequencies. They really are imprinted frequencies. So what can you use? Well, the answer is pretty much everything. So scalar is the one I'm going to talk about first, and I absolutely love scalar. I mean, I really love scalar. There's not much you can't do with scalar. You can also use the cold laser, and I like this as well. You can use the PEMF coil, I also like. The central, you can imprint with it, but I'm going to say that for imprinting, this is possibly one of the least useful of the tools in your kit. You can use the TENS pads for imprinting, and you can use the remote. But I would say that the most useful for you are going to be the scalar, the cold laser, the coil, and the remote. I've had the best success with those 4. Okay. Now, let's talk about the scalar. So the scalar, if you don't have one, has 2 units. It has a transmitter side and it has the receiver side. And when we are imprinting, we put the object on the transmitter side. So the way scalar works is once you power it up, it sends the signal from the transmitter to the receiver, and then it sends the signal back. And it's that sending it back that creates the scalar field. So your objects that you want to receive the benefit of go on the receiver side, but the object that you are imprinting into goes on the transmitter coil. And I have imprinted using scalar, imprinting into water. And let me just grab my scalar and my little water glass here. Okay, I've only got the transmitter here. So when I'm imprinting into water, I like to use a glass or a container, well, particularly made of glass, not plastic, that's my preference. And I like it to have a nice thin bottom. So this is actually a stemless wine glass, and I love these. I really, really love these because they keep the substance close to the coil, and that's where most of the power is. And when you're popping it onto your transmitter, which I will just hold up here, on the coil itself, there's a little grey circle marked on the coil itself. And that's where I try and position the things that I'm imprinting into, whether it's a crystal or whether it's water or whether it's a bracelet or whatever it happens to be. And you can connect your generator and you can run frequencies, okay? And you can imprint the frequencies into whatever you've put on the transmitter side. Or, this is also really neat, you can put something like an essential oil, and I often use frankincense. You can put this on the receiver side and not use any frequencies at all. And you have the option of sitting in the scalar if you want sort of the essence of you to go into the object you're imprinting as well. So you can do it with frequencies or with objects. Could be an essential oil, could be a medicine, could be a crystal, because crystals do have their own frequencies as well. So what we do is we power up our scalar, we put the objects that we want to imprint into or imprint from on the coils first, and then we tune it. I sometimes find that when I'm doing this, the tuning frequency is slightly lower. And for me, it seems to be slightly like weight or size dependent. Like the heavier the object that I'm putting on the transmitter to imprint into, like if I'm using a full glass of water like I just showed you, it may tune a little bit lower. The recommendation is that you would select up to 8 frequencies. You can sit in the field while it imprints, unless you've got a pacemaker. And then you let it run. So a glass of water might take 10 minutes to imprint, and larger volumes will take longer. There is a part on the Spooky 2 blog where it says, can you actually, imprint something like an entire gallon of water at a time? And someone has suggested that you can, like for very, very large quantities, you could put those between the two cases. So if you were, say, for example, wanting to imprint water to water your garden to do in a very, very large quantity, then you might like to try that. There's a wee note that you might want to try structuring your water before starting. I have done it both ways. So there's a theory that when you force the water out of the tap and it's had to go through all the right angles in your house to actually come out the faucet, the water's not in its best state. It's not as though it's just been flowing along in a little stream being tumbled by the stones and doing its thing naturally. So if you are concerned about that, one of the very simplest way to structure your water is to create a vortex. And to do that, it's as simple as you can grab a spoon, you can put the water in your glass and give it a stir until you see the little vortex begin to form. And really, that's all you need to do. I do want to talk about Dr. Masaru Emoto here as well. He is a Japanese scientist and researcher who has done a lot of work with water and positive intentions and plants and even foods. And his work is based on the way that we treat the water. If we say nice things to it or tell it that it's beautiful, tell it that it's full of life force, when you freeze it and look at the crystals, you see very beautiful patterns. If you play it not rock music per se, heavy metal, if you play it grunge and heavy metal and things that are unpleasant, or you say nasty things to the water, then when it freezes, the pattern is very chaotic. And what we're trying to do when we're imprinting is we want to try and create a pattern which is pleasing and symmetrical, so that we're really getting the benefit of a harmonious frequency that's going to be good for our bodies. And I do want to show you a little clip of some of the work by Dr. Emoto. So I'm just going to click to that, just one moment. Now, tell me if the volume is no good. Okay.
This next series of photographs are the work of Japanese researcher Mr. Masaru Emoto from his book, The Message from Water. Mr. Emoto's work provides factual evidence that human vibrational energy, thoughts, words, ideas, and music affect the molecular structure of water. Please remember that water comprises over 70% of a mature human body and covers the same amount on our planet. Water is the very source of all life. This photo shows the beautifully formed geometric design of the Yushi Spring water. This next photo is from the Shimanto River, the last clean spring in Japan. Notice the extraordinary geometric forms. The fact that the molecular structure of water can be affected by our consciousness, our intent, and our sounds is extremely important. This photo is from the Mount Cook Glacier in New Zealand. Mr. Emoto has been visually documenting these molecular changes in water by means of his photographic techniques. He freezes droplets of water, then examines them under a dark field microscope that has photographic capabilities. His work clearly demonstrates the diversity of the molecular structure of water and the effects of the environment upon the structure of the water. This photo is from the fountain in Lourdes, France. This photo is from contaminated water from from the Yodo River in Japan. In this photo, we can compare the contaminated water with clean stream water. Look at the difference. Mr. Emoto decided to see what effects music would have upon the structure of water. He placed distilled water between two speakers for several hours while playing different music and then photographing the crystals that formed after the water was frozen. This photo is of water being exposed to Beethoven's Pastorale. This photo is the effect of Bach's Air for the G-string on the water. This photo is water exposed to Chopin's Farewell Song. This next photo is water being exposed and affected to music that was designed for healing. This photo is of water being exposed to the Kawachi folk dance. This photo shows the effect of heavy metal music upon the water. Here now we can compare the effects of healing versus heavy metal music and what happens to the water molecules. Mr. Emoto decided to see how thoughts and words affected the formation of untreated distilled water crystals by typing words onto paper and then taping this paper onto glass bottles overnight. This photo shows the effects of the words, "Thank you." This next photo shows the effects of the words, "love" and "appreciation." This photo shows the effects of the words, "You make me sick, I will kill you." And here we can compare the effects of "thank you" with the "you make me sick, I will kill you." Very, very different geometric forms being incurred through the intention. Now this photo is of a very polluted and toxic water from the Fujiwara Dam. Here now is the same water from the Fujiwara Dam after a Buddhist monk had offered a prayer over it. Prayer, that sound coupled with intention, seems to have extraordinary ability of restoring water to its natural, harmonious, geometric symmetry. And in this photo we can compare toxic water and then the effects of praying over the water.
Sorry, I mucked up the thing there. I saw Mark posted a comment saying, "Don't pick on the heavy metal music." And I'm truly sorry, Mark, because I have to say back in the day, I was a Metallica fan and I did listen to my share of Alice Cooper as well. But it does appear that it makes a difference on the water. Now let me just find the presentation again. There we go. Now, I just want to show you some of the things that I have imprinted with the scaler. So one of the first reasons I got into Spooky, I had a very, very, very old dog and she wasn't doing well. She really wasn't doing well and she was the love of my life. And I originally started getting into the Spooky thinking, well, I wonder if it can help her. And I started imprinting water and crystals for my old dog. And I saw a difference within 2 weeks. And my old dog, who had stopped getting out of bed and running around and she was starting to stop eating, it absolutely renewed her. She started eating again with vigor. We have a really steep driveway here and she started running up and down the driveway and she wouldn't wait for me. I would get up in the morning and do my work and she'd be off. She'd be hunting the rats and the lizards and she would go out for a couple of hours and have a great time. And then she would come back in and spend time with me. And she was about 16 to 17 years old at the time when this happened. And I thought, well, this is interesting, but how do I know it's real? And so what I was doing is I was taking water from the tap, the same tap water, one I would imprint and one I would put straight in the bowl. I would then put 2 identical bowls down and I would let her choose which one she wanted to drink. She only wanted to drink the imprinted one. And I was imprinting it with frequencies for kidneys because that was the trouble she was having. So I was imprinting it with kidney healing frequencies. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I would try and trick her and I would swap the bowls around and I would put them in different places. And consistently, she would only drink the frequency imprinted water. And I thought, okay, that is really, really interesting. So then someone gave me this really beautiful rose quartz crystal. And I thought, okay, I will imprint the crystal with frequencies and I will hide this in her bed and we'll just see what happens. And my dog was very much like Princess and the Pea. So she had a little bed, she had lots of doonas in it, and I would tuck this where she couldn't find it into different corners each night. And every morning when I woke up, she would have found it, she would have dug it out, and she would be laying on it, giving this little crystal a cuddle. And I was like, well, that is really, really interesting. Okay, now Carol says, she's just questioning about where objects go. So no, the objects that you want to receive the benefit from go on the receiver coil. The object that you are imprinting into goes on the transmitter coil. And that is because the signal comes from the transmitter, goes to the receiver, and then it gets sent back. And it's the sending back that creates the scalar field. So the object to be imprinted into definitely goes on the transmitter. The object that you want to receive the benefit from goes into the receiver side. But look, I had fantastic success with water for Tawny and with the crystal. I sometimes imprinted quite large quantities of water for her. So I used to use an old passata jar, which again, made of glass and had a very thin base. And I would sort of be able to print sort of 500 mil at a time for her. And when I did that with the scalar, I might leave it running for an hour or more, to get the frequencies in there. There really shouldn't be any concerns about overdosing, and that's a link that takes you to a place on Spooky's blog. When you're using scalar and the imprinted water, the body should just take what it wants and leave everything else that it doesn't. It'll just flush out. And if you are wanting to store your imprinted water, keep it in a dark glass container if you're keeping it. Keep it away from sources of other imprinting, which means keep it away from magnetic fields, keep it away from bright sunlight. Don't yell at it. I mean, by all means, follow the principles of Dr. Emoto and say nice things to it if you want to. Or you could take a piece of paper and put it near something with a nice intention. So the work from Dr. Emoto, he used words typed on paper. He used people standing around the object and just projecting their intention. He used spoken words. And of course, then that raises the whole question, spoken words in what language? Does water know every single language? And I suspect, no, it doesn't really. Again, it's the intention. And I've often thought of the human body as a walking rife machine anyway. And I've often thought that when the Bible talks about the laying of hands, and the fact that they've done studies that show that there is a field that comes out from your hands, particularly the hands. And I do think that the human body is, in a sense, a walking rife machine. So try to consume your imprinted water immediately for best results and within a week if you are storing it or less. Now there's something else I want to show you from Dr. Emoto, and this was, they did an experiment in an IKEA store with two identical plants under identical conditions, and one plant was bullied, and I thought that was particularly interesting. So it's a very short clip, and I just want to show you that one as well.
one notices when you're in the room.
You're a mistake.
You're useless. You're not even green.
You look rotten. Are you really even alive?
I like you the way you are. Seeing you blossom makes me happy.
You're making a difference in the world.
You are beautiful.
I brought them here to see the plant. I was like, a plant is getting bullied. Like, it's not normal.
I think it's an excellent project. To have something tangible that they can actually physically be a part of is, I think, going to be very powerful.
As the weeks passed, I started noticing that the one that was being bullied started kind of to droop.
While the plant that was being complimented, it was flourishing and beautiful.
It's raised the profile massively of different forms of bullying and the effects that bullying can have on people.
If it affects a plant, it can definitely affect other people.
There we go. And yes, I saw someone say they feel very sorry for the plant, and so do I. Yes, I do. And plants and us, we're really not that different in some senses. It's the water content. There's water in the plants, there's water in us, and if you can imprint frequencies or words or thoughts or intentions into water, whether it's in a container or in a plant, you can imprint it into yourself. Now, someone said, can you only do water and crystals on the scalar? The answer is no. You're really only limited by your imagination. So actually, these still are crystals, I'm sorry. But sometimes I imprint into these neat little crystal bracelets because I can give them to people to just, imprint and wear. Or if I am imprinting crystals, and I'll come back to these in a moment, but I particularly like quartz crystals because Nikola Tesla really liked quartz. But you could put a little crystal like this, you could tuck it in your pocket and carry it around with you. But I have also imprinted into necklaces, I've imprinted into dog collars, I've imprinted into rings and copper bracelets. If you've got metal glasses, you could try imprinting into those. It's, what have you got around the house that you could physically fit onto the transmitter side to imprint into? If you've got something, have a go, see what happens, okay? Now, the next thing I want to show you is the cold laser, and this is full credit to Jonathan Ellis, and I will have his details for you at the end, and I'm going to show you a video from Jonathan later. This is his website here, rifework.com, and this is his absolute genius idea for using a little Tupperware container to make imprinting with cold laser a lot easier. So this is my cold laser here. And I love this. I really love this. I particularly like wearing this at night when I'm running blood cleanser and just go to sleep with this connected the whole night. But for imprinting, the idea is that you want it to shine the lasers down into the top of your container of water, that you're imprinting into. But of course, you don't want your laser to fall into the water or get wet or damaged. So he's come up with this really, really neat container. So all it is, it's a screw top container where he's cut a hole in the lid so that you can pass the straps of this through, okay? And you can do it up so it's not going to fall off. It's perfectly mounted into the lid, okay? So the second picture is showing the laser here. This is the side that's going to shine down into the water, but the lid is currently upside down and everything has been passed through the holes that have been cut. And here it is right side up. And now the laser is inside the container and the lid is screwed on, and the glass of water or whatever you're imprinting into. So this is a plastic container. So he's suggesting that you put a glass inside and imprint into the glass, okay? Not directly into the plastic, because you don't want anything that's in the plastic affecting your water. But I just thought that was so neat. I actually have taken those pictures from his last webinar that he did, and he has a lot of wonderful information on his site where you can access all of his past webinars on imprinting, and he has a lot of links there as well. He's also willing to do any one-on-one training if somebody is interested in seeking him out for more help with this afterwards. Now, if you are using a glass to imprint your frequencies into, if you try wrapping the laser around the glass and trying shining through the glass, sometimes they can filter out some of the beneficial frequencies. Sometimes there are compounds in the glass that we don't see, but they're still there and they can block things. So it's better to shine the light directly into it from the top. You can repeat a preset a number of times if you want to, but it's recommended that you run it only once. If you are running a low frequency, something like, for example, 7.83, you might run it for an entire day. If you're trying to imprint a high frequency, you might run it for only 10 seconds. So your high frequencies will generally be the things from the MW database. And on that note, John Robert Grayson recently posted some really interesting nootropics frequencies, and they are high frequencies, but you might like to experiment with those. I haven't done that yet, but if you're interested in some of his nootropics compounds, you could try imprinting those into water, and instead of having to go out and buy the supplement, you could try drinking that. Now, you can combine cold laser and PMF coil and use both at the same time. And if you were going to do that, you would want to have the cold laser above and the coil underneath the glass. And you might, you might have to maybe cut a hole in the bottom of this container to have the coil directly in contact with the glass. So you could still use the outside as a frame, still screw on the lid, and maybe just cut the bottom off so that you can get the coil in there, which I will show you. This is the coil. And you would want the BN side against the object that you're imprinting. Okay. Now, using the coil for imprinting. So you'll notice that the coil has this really neat little hole in the middle. So the hole is just the right size for very small glass vials to slide into, such as, here is a picture on the screen. It could be an essential oil, could be a medicine, could be a tincture. I have also done it with just putting a crystal on top of the coil. And I particularly like quartz crystals and fluorite. You can choose something that you like. The reason I like the quartz crystals is because Nikola Tesla liked the quartz crystals. In fact, he believed that crystals they're a life form, that they are alive. He was particularly keen on very, very thin slices of crystals, and he thought that the thinner you could get a slice, the higher and purer the frequency. Now, the crystals I've got are cheap little tumble stones, and I pay about, between $2 to $4 per little tumble stone. You can get the slices, and because you've got to be so careful with the cutting and they can break, they are more expensive. But if you're interested in experimenting with them, see what you can find. Now, when you're using the coil, you can connect it directly to the generator on output 1, or you can use the high power port of the Spooky Boost, or you could just connect it on output 1 of the Spooky Boost. You have options. Okay. The idea is to run healing programs with a total frequency of less than 8. The lower frequencies are best, and generally your entrainment frequencies are your lower frequencies. So something under 30 hertz, or even things under 10 hertz. And if you look in the Spooky 2 database for the bio and rust programs, they are typically very low frequencies, and I really like those databases. The other databases will typically be in the hundreds or thousands. Now, if you're trying to imprint a high frequency, you can restructure the water in 1 to 2 hours. Very low frequencies like the Schumann resonance, 7.83, those sorts of things, might take a day or 2. So this is not as quick as the imprinting that I do with my scaler. When I'm using the scaler, I might scan the PET, save their biofeedback, run those frequencies straight into the water, give them the water to drink, job done, okay? Whereas this is going to be a longer process, but it depends what you're trying to do. I mean, you might decide that you want to take an essential oil like frankincense and that you want to add frequencies to it for pain, or you want to add frequencies to it for something, okay, to make it like an even more beneficial essential oil. Now, if you want to imprint frequencies into water, there's a link here to a video that'll show you exactly how to do it. But essentially all you're doing is you get your glass with a nice thin base and pop it on top of the coil, be inside out. Okay, but if you watch the video, it'll take you through the software as well so that you can see exactly what you're doing. And as mentioned, you can combine it with the cold laser if you want to do that as well. You can imprint the high MW frequencies if you want. Someone mentioned in a post recently that they had success imprinting hydrogen water. So you know how we have the hydrogen water bottles where you fill the bottle with your water and push a button, and via electrolysis, it separates the hydrogen and the oxygen so that the hydrogen ions infuse the water, and it's meant to be very, very beneficial for your health. And Gary Brecker has been talking about that recently on his Ultimate Human podcast. However, someone on the Spooky page tried imprinting hydrogen into water, and this is a quote from them. There were some members posting about hydrogen water being good. Thank you so much for that. And I had just bought a PEMF coil to use with my generators and was beginning to experiment with imprinting. I sat the PEMF coil with B inside up right underneath my water glass and ran for the 9-minute duration of the frequencies. I've been having 1 or 2 glasses of this water for about 5 days, and they felt that that was very beneficial. Okay, now this is the central, and what we're showing here, we're showing the Fanatron bulb. So you can imprint with central, but it's possibly not as ideal as other methods. And the reason for that is that it gives you a lot of additional frequencies, a lot of harmonics. So when you're putting something near the tube and you're getting a lot of harmonics, it can create a more chaotic structure, and you can check what it's doing. Like if you want to try it, particularly with water, because you can freeze the water and then have a look at the pattern that it makes. If it makes a nice pattern, great, you're probably onto something really, really good. But if it just looks like something very chaotic and random, then maybe it's not the right way to imprint frequencies for you for whatever you're trying to do. So this is the thing, it's all about experimentation. So if you've got the central and you've got the tube and you want to have a go, please do. And if you have success, please put your feedback into the Facebook group, Spooky2 Rife for Life, or email it to Spooky2 support so that they can pop it onto the blog. Now, TENS pads for imprinting. And again, this is one that I haven't used as much because I prefer the other methods. But if you don't have the cold laser and you don't have the coil, but you have the generator and the TENS pads, just like it shows in the picture here, you can put your TENS pads either side of the glass, and you can use a contact empty shell preset, choose your programs, but you might want to change the dwell. So when we usually run a contact program, the dwell is 180, meaning 180 seconds or 3 minutes. But if you change the dwell to 0.333, the consensus on the forum is that a lesser duration of applying the frequency is enough. Some people say that water can really only take the frequencies from a certain period of time. And that time may be 3 minutes, it may be more, it may be less. And there have been some experiments done where they play classical music to water, something like the Beethoven, and they look at the pattern when they freeze it. And then they take the same water that's just listened to Beethoven and they play they play it the heavy metal music, and they it still remembers the Beethoven, but it is more influenced by what it's heard most recently, and it gives the more distorted pattern. Okay. Although, Mark, I am going to say there may be some heavy metal bands that that fall, that are the exception to the rule. And if we're going to look for those, I'm still going to say, I'm a Metallica fan. I really am. I grew up with Metallica and Alice Cooper. Okay. Now, there's also some notes here that you tick to remove duplicate frequencies in the software when you're doing this. And because we're looking at a contact mode here, if you're using an MW or DNA database frequency, apply the tissue factor. And what this does is when we're applying an MW or a DNA frequency through the body, it's going to travel slower through you and slower through tissue than it does through the water. So we're applying the tissue factor to account for the fact that this isn't running through you, it's running through the glass and running through the water. So at an atomic level, the speed of light is absolute, but the propagation or traveling speed of signals through tissue is slower, okay? The DNA, MW, and BP database entries are derived through calculation using scales on a molecular level. And since these frequencies are theoretical and use the speed of light in their calculation, it makes sense to add a factor to these frequencies if the signal has to pass through tissue to compensate. So that is taken from Spooky 2's own site. But to be honest, this is not a method that I have used a lot. I do prefer the others. Now, same notes. Once you've printed your water, store it in dark glass. It's optimum to have it immediately or within 24 hours, but you could use it up to a week. Dosage, actually, sometimes when I've done it, I've just done it in shot glasses and then I just have it as a shot and I have the whole thing. But if you want to use it as droppers, you can do that. I've never overdosed myself with imprinted water. Your body will take what it needs and it will discard the rest. But, if you are unsure, you can just simply start with drops, see how you go, and then decide if you want to drink the entire shot or however much you've imprinted in one go later. Now, there's also a note, confirmation of correct imprinting is detecting a silky, velvety type texture, okay? Or when you freeze it, seeing a beautiful pattern. Okay, now we get to the remote. And the remote is really, really, really neat because there's a lot you can do with it. But you must remember that the remote does have a magnet in it, and a magnet will wipe your imprinted, or well, possibly will wipe your imprinted frequency. So Jonathan Ellis actually has something to say about that. He says it may, but it certainly deserves further testing. So when I am imprinting using the remote and using the stickers, which I have here. Now you can use any holographic sticker that you like. I was very, very lucky that I actually got some of the official Spooky 2 holographic stickers that they had during one promotion. And I will check with the team if these are available again because they're just really, really cute. But you can use any holographic sticker that you like. They're readily available, they're cheap, they last really, really well. They provide continuous therapeutic energy and you can do all kinds of things with them. So when my current dog, naughty little boy that he is, went and ate 6 packets of rat bait and one would have killed him. He ate 6. He took them all outside. He knew he wasn't supposed to have them. They were all sealed. So he took them outside and he hid, opening each one by one and eating all 6 packets. And after a period of time, I thought, gosh, the dog is very quiet. Why is the dog so quiet? And I went and found him and he smiled at me with blue teeth. And I went, oh no. So what we did for him, the first thing we did was we actually made him vomit. Then we did give him the vitamin K as well, because that's recommended to try and help coagulation. I tucked him in his cage like a naughty little boy that he was, because he wasn't supposed to be running and jumping for the next month, the vet said. And we ran biofeedback and he had to stay in this little crate all night, having his biofeedback done with the scalar hunt and kill. But while he was out during the day, being as naughty as you like, because he was a puppy, he was wearing this collar. And what I did is I imprinted coagulation frequencies into stickers. And I actually imprinted, I think, probably 4 or 5 stickers so that I could put them in between the layers of the collar here so that they wouldn't come off and get lost. And once this was put around his neck, they stayed on quite well. And he had absolutely no side effects, no problems. He didn't behave one bit. He ran, he leaped, he jumped, and he didn't hemorrhage one bit. He was absolutely fine. And I do think a lot of that was down to the scaler and having the benefit of the stickers as well. I've also done these inside shoes here. So sometimes if I'm imprinting stickers for myself, I will imprint a sticker and then I just put it either under the toe or the heel of the shoe. So it's in contact with the body. I have less luck sticking them on myself, because what tends to happen is I jump in the shower forgetting that I've got a sticker stuck on me, and very quickly after a few minutes in the shower, it's not stuck on me anymore. So I do prefer to stick them on objects that are going to be in contact with me. And you just want to make sure that the stickers are away from magnetic fields, away from bright sunshine, and try not to get them wet. Now, a gentleman recently, Alan Hassoun, on the Spooky 2 Rife for Life page, he has imprinted a sticker. If you can see, he's cut it to size and he's put it on the frame of his glasses, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Now, if the glasses have got a metal frame, sure, you could imprint them on the scaler, but if you haven't got a scaler, this is a really good idea to imprint the sticker and attach it to the glasses. And if you read the notes here, he was doing it for a sebaceous cyst on his temple. And because the frame of the glasses was in contact with his body, he's had good success with that. So I thought that was quite ingenious. Now, you don't have to do your stickers one at a time. So this is my remote here. And often if I'm imprinting into the remote, I will put the sticker in like this with just a little bit hanging out, so that before the remote has stopped, so the program is still running, and before it's stopped, I can just pull it out. And that way the magnet of the remote won't remove the frequencies. But you can also imprint large sheets. So you've really only got to have, if they're all connected like this, so the stickers here are surrounded by holographic material outside of the stickers, I can put that entire sheet into the remote like this. And Jonathan's got a fabulous video on his page where he shows that you can put a whole strip into the remote. He then cuts off the part that was in the remote and tests the rest, and the frequencies are there. So that is a really, really, really neat idea. So if you're wanting to print a whole lot of stickers with the same frequency, either for different people or, maybe they're pain stickers, or it could be allergy stickers. In fact, there was a success story I heard a long time ago. A lady imprinted stickers for her friend to wear on the back of her necklace. She was allergic to the friend's cat. And so it was working really, really well until one day she went round and had the most awful allergic reaction to the cat and realized she'd left her necklace at home. So the stickers really do work very, very well if you get the right frequency. I'm going to show you a video from Jonathan in just a moment, because there's a thing called Stephanie R's Rogue Method. So when we are imprinting the stickers, you don't have to run the dwell for the whole 3 minutes. And in fact, you really may not have to run it very often at all. And I don't want to misquote David Halliday, but I think it was him that said that applying multiple frequencies for a very short period of time, it's like chip, 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 chip on the edge of a stone or something like that, until finally it's that final tiny chip, chip, chip makes the whole thing, crumble and blow. And he thinks that the tiny chip, chip, chip can be more powerful than just a one-off 3-minute dwell time. So let me show you the video of Stephanie R's Rogue Method. Oh, let's check we've got the right page. Looks good.
Jonathan Ellis here. I'm a verified Spooky 2 trainer. And what I'd like to do is share something that Stephanie Ah came up with that is just fantastic. And it has to do with imprinting. And if you're doing this already, that's terrific. And if you're not, you'll be getting into it soon enough. It's really very cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, she calls this the rogue method, by the way, but I think it's going to be the method that takes over and becomes the standard method. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to demo this, how this works, is I'm going to put in pain. I'm going to search for pain possibilities here. And there are lots of them, right? Lots of them. I'm looking to imprint pain frequencies. I'm just picking whatever I want here, just going by, you know, what I feel. Notice this showed up in here. That showed up because I have, I'm going to skip over here to my control. I have things running here. And when things are running, sometimes if you have a lot of machines, sometimes it will take over and place things where you don't want them. And the simplest way around this is just to pause them. Just pause everything else, right? So now that's all paused. I can go back to my programs, continue my process, right? I'm picking all these different possible pain frequencies, things that can be problematic, and I'm just doing it at random. You know, these are powerful, so I'm picking them, right? I used this the other day. I did something like this yesterday, actually, and the results were just remarkable. Very quick to do, and that's why I'm choosing to do this. It's the best. It's the best. So these are random. Again, all this is random. You would go through and pick the things that stand out to you. Pick a bunch of these, fibromyalgia, right? Why not? You're going, oh my God, you're building up a lot of time here. That's right, I am. There's a lot, right? So just for now, we're going to say that's enough. I'm going to get rid of this thing here, right? Because I obviously don't want that from my pain program. And I'm going to load what I've selected. And what have I got? 16 hours and 36 minutes, right? That's a ridiculous amount, right? You wouldn't have something like this, but bear with me here. What I'm going to do, and this is all according to Stephanie's document for the most part. I've changed some things to make it easier, but you'll see that this works pretty well. And I'm going to save them, and I'm going to call this pain test. I always give myself notation. She calls this a rogue program. I call it the Ah method. I'm giving myself notation, and I'm letting myself know that I have made this reduction. Right here, the dwell is normally 180, which translates to 3 minutes, right? 180 translates to 3 minutes. By doing this, by telling this 0.5, I'm telling it, rather than running a frequency for 3 minutes, I want it to run for half a second, right? This is surprising. To me, this is like using a camera, taking a photograph, like a film camera, exposing the plate, right? Exposing the film for a very split second. And the camera transforms that into an image. I believe that we're doing that with frequencies and imprinting. So I'm going to save this and tell it yes. Where's that going to be? It's going to be in my custom programs, and I can find that very easily by just dragging down to the bottom, right? You'll see that I have one that I already did. This is the one I used yesterday, but but I wanted to show how to build this. And notice the one I did yesterday is different, right? I chose different things, but like I said, this was random, I chose them. So I'm gonna go back over to presets. I'm gonna go shell empty presets. I'm gonna choose remote. I'm going to choose universal square HBOM in this case. I'm gonna go to my programs. I'm gonna choose what I just created, my test program. I'm gonna load it, right? I'm not gonna change anything here other than this, which I want to be 0, right? I want the sequence to repeat over and over and over again without stopping. I'm also going to tell it remove frequencies. I could have done this before, but it really doesn't make any difference. I'm choosing to do it now. And I'm going to settings and I'm clicking right here, which turns this into a dual program. I'm leaving everything else the same, everything. Notice that this is now 34 seconds long. That's right. So what was 16 hours is now 34 seconds. This is as hard to believe as that remote functionality works, right? But I encourage you to test the results of a thing like this, and you will discover for yourself the reality of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save that. You know, I always save these things, and I'm going to save that. And I'm going to go to my experimental. I have a bunch of different things, and I did this before. I'm just going to overwrite the one that I did, and I'm going to tell it to save. So now I have that, right? Notice the way it's named. Notice the way it's named. That's right here, right? Pain test. I'm giving credit to Stephanie. It's the USHB, Universal Square HBOM, and imprint, right? I'm telling myself what this is. And it's showing up here and it's showing up here. I'm giving myself this information. Now I check to see, yep, those are 0. I check to see, because this is a preset. I preset everything, right? I'm going to control. I'm going to overwrite generator. That's generator 4. Now, this is here and ready to run. What's the first thing I'm going to do? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a sticker into the, see if I can drag this over here so you can see it. It's probably going to show you both. I think you should be able to see this though. Let's see if I can make it just this. No, I don't want that. I think you can see this pretty well. What I'm doing here is I'm taking this. This is a sticker that I've put into a little envelope. You don't need, you know, these are regular stickers that we've all seen now. And I'm putting it into this little envelope. You don't have to have this kind of envelope. You can just take a piece of paper and fold it over, right? It really doesn't matter. You just want it big enough so that you can slide it into the remote. So I'm doing that here, right? I kind of like to have it this way. And I make sure that's secure. And now that's ready to go. Now it's off at this point. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to tell this to start. Now it's going to run like crazy. It's only 34 seconds long. In the meanwhile, I'm going to come back up to my global and unpause the rest of my generators because they don't have to be paused anymore. I just did that while I was building this. And this is just pushing along. So what's happening here is it's running through all those frequencies half a second at a time. And because it's dual, it's pumping back and forth. But all those frequencies are being imprinted, all of them. And it just now reached the end of the first run. It just now reached that, so 34 seconds. So But just on basic thoughtfulness, I go, yeah, let's let this run for a full 5 minutes, right? Why not? I've got the time. 5 minutes is nothing compared to 16 hours. I mean, just a little bit of overkill here. Right now, it's about halfway done. Now, I don't really need this, so I'm going to show you how I remove the material. So I'm just reaching in here and I'm removing it just like that. Notice that I've done that while this is still running. The reason I do that is if I leave the sticker in the remote and I stop it, what's going to happen is the magnets that are in the remote will eliminate the imprint. So you certainly don't want to do that. So that's the trick. That's all of it right there. You would let this run its duration. Even at this point, it's probably pretty powerful. You take the sticker out and use it on any point where you're experiencing pain. And I'm telling you, this really does the trick. It works. And this, you know, doing pain like this is really, it's telling, right? It's telling because it's such an immediate effect. You get it right away. You know that it's working. I'm going to stop this now. It doesn't need to run. Anyway, I hope this is, you know, something that works for you. So there I am. I will.
There we go. Now I'm just going to go back to the presentation here. Now I was just catching up on some of the questions in the chat, and I can see some of you were still quite upset about the plants. But just to share a nicer story, we've had avocado trees on my block for 20 years, and they have consistently failed to give us anything whatsoever. So a couple of years ago, I started talking to the avocado trees and going around and telling them, you know, how great they were and how much I was looking forward to avocados and how good it would be to have the avocados. And since then, like we've gone from 0 to more avocados than we can eat. There's avocados on the tree behind me currently still growing. And at last count, I could see probably 40, 50 avocados just on one tree. It's doing really, really well. And my pomegranate, which is really too young to have produced anything, has its first pomegranate this year. So I've really been encouraging the plants to do their thing. So, you know, speak nicely to your plants, okay? And they can recover. Even with my little black thumb with my indoor plants, if I speak to them very nicely and tell them that they can recover, you'd be surprised. They truly can. Now, John had a question about, is output 1 used only for killing? No. What it is, on your generator, you have output 1 and output 2, and all it is they are channels which put out the frequencies. So they're not particularly healing or killing or anything else until you choose a waveform that goes with it. So when we choose the shell empty presets for killing, if you go to the settings page and you have a look at what the waveform looks like, you will usually see something that looks like a sawtooth with a sharp rise or a sharp drop. Okay. When we choose a healing preset, you are typically going to see something that looks more like a sine wave with gentle up and down. Okay. So output 1 and 2 are simply the channels where the frequencies come out. And usually they are from output 1, but there are some presets like the dual one that, or by setting it to be a dual program that Jonathan's just done, where you can output frequencies on output 2, and they can be the same frequency as output 1, they can be a different frequency from the program, or it can be output 1 plus a carrier frequency. Like there's all kinds of things you can do with the frequencies on the second channel. Now, Christian said, how do you fit the crystals in the remote? And I don't. When I'm using the remote, I'm generally using the remote for stickers. I'm using the crystals with my scalar. I can use the crystals with my PMF coil. You could try crystals with the cold laser. I don't know how it would go, but you know, this is why it's experimental. But unless it would actually fit in the remote, and I think even my littlest ones really, they're not going to work. That's going to be open. So I would choose something that fits in, like if you had a really thin slice, then you might have luck. But otherwise I don't imprint crystals with the remote. Someone asked how long does it last, and Gloria said that she has imprints that have lasted 2.5 years. So basically don't get it wet, don't put it in the sun, don't expose it to other frequencies, don't expose it to a magnet, but it's absolutely fabulous that Gloria's got 2.5 years. Gloria also suggested imprinting crystals and dropping them in water, and that does work. And then some very clever person said, why put them in the water? Just put the tank of water on top. And that's a very clever idea as well. And someone said, where do we find the recordings of these webinars after the event? Because you have registered to attend, it should be emailed to you. But if you are ever looking for a past webinar, say for example, something from Jonathan that you didn't register for, go to Spooky 2 Academy events page and you can search for the trainer's name, or you can search for the topic, or you can just go through them in date order. But you will find a lot of the webinars are on Spooky 2 Academy events. Now, someone said, how many frequencies can we put into a sticker? And that answer is undetermined. So it depends who you ask. And again, experiment with it and see what you want to do. So Jonathan just showed you that he's having success turning a 16-hour program into a 34-second program and having great results with it. Some other people say that if you start to use too many frequencies, it becomes too chaotic. And you have to remember with the stickers as well, when we're using remote to apply frequencies to our fingernails, we are applying the frequencies in a sequential order. When we've imprinted the frequencies, they are being applied to us all at once. And so what can be very nice as an individual note on a piano, or a combination of notes on a piano, if you press them all at once, it can be too chaotic. So that's, but that's just one person's opinion, and so this is where it's up to you to experiment and decide, how many is too many, or is there absolutely no limit? Experiment, play around and report back. Now, Jonathan has another clever idea. He's got so many of them. Okay, so what about imprinting to the body? So he's just shown you that we can use Stephanie R's method to imprint into stickers that we can use. But what if we just kept the fingernails in the remote and we changed the dwell time from 180 to reduce that? So like Stephanie R's method, but with fingernails, can we imprint to the body? And Jonathan thinks yes, we can. And he has a really interesting video about that here. And I think from memory, he was using a 36-second dwell for his imprinting to the body. You could experiment with like the Stephanie R Rogue method with scalar, but remember that scalar is modulating the frequency. So what it's really doing is it's turning the field on and off at that frequency. So this is why the scalar is sort of has a top limit of 50,000 hertz. So if you were going to try and modify the Rogue method for scalar, I would suggest that something like a half-second dwell is going to be too quick, I think, personally. But again, experiment, see what you think. Okay, so the justification for imprinting to the body is that we are, for the most part, composed of water. Well, that's true. And we know that water accepts imprinting readily, also true. And so Jonathan's idea is, let's use that principle. Let's treat the body as though it were a glass of water or a hologram, and let's imprint straight to the body. So the advantage is that the frequencies are going to the whole body. So when we put a sticker on, it's really quite localized. So if you're using a pain sticker, you would put it where the pain is. So if you've got a sore elbow, you'd be putting the sticker on your elbow. Whereas when we're using remote, the remote is using the DNA that's in your fingernails. So it's more holistic. It's going to go to the whole body, okay? And it's going to go in a sequence, one after the other, as opposed to being all at once. So it's just another idea. Now, what is the best material to imprint into? So water is fabulous. What else has a lot of water in it? Wine and almond milk and all kinds of foods and drinks have a lot of water in them. So are there any limits? No, there's not. You're only limited by your imagination. So have a go. You can imprint into essential oils. When I am imprinting into essential oils, they have glass bottles, and I do usually take the lid off so there's no plastic cap in play. Some people say you don't need to worry about that because it's far enough away from the PEMF coil or far enough away from the coil on the scaler that it really doesn't matter. But if you're concerned about the plastic lid, just remove it and it's fine. If you're worried about the oil, evaporating, one clever person said, you can take this off and you could just pop a crystal on top, okay, if you really, really, really wanted to. Now, imprinting into crystals. I have bought a lot of crystals, particularly quartz. But if I'm at a local fair and somebody's got crystals, I'm there at the table having a wee dig through and seeing what looks interesting. And recently at my local fair, there was a young lady and she was actually closing down her crystal business and going into supplements. So she had a lot of really, really lovely large pieces of selenite and quartz and tourmaline, and she was getting rid of them at ridiculous prices, and I took the lot. So sometimes you just get lucky, and I particularly like the large crystals like this for imprinting because they're not small enough that the dog's going to think it's a piece of food and try and eat it. So I can tuck it into the dog's bed and know that he's nice and safe. Okay. Metals, so copper bracelets, rings, glasses, necklaces, you can try imprinting into all of that. So, I mean, I've got a chain on at the moment. I probably could curl this up and fit this into the remote with just enough hanging out that I could pull it out before the remote stops. The rings, I could imprint these on the scaler or on the PEMF coil, but although they would fit into the remote, I'm either going to have to open the remote while it's running to extract them, or you might be able to tie them together with a piece of string and sort of slide them out that way. That might be another way you could try doing that with the remote. Holographic stickers or sheets. And now seeds is a very interesting idea. So some people imprint water for their plants, and some people have actually tried imprinting the frequencies directly into seeds before planting and had really good results with that. So it's entirely up to you what you want to try. And just because something is not on this list doesn't mean don't try it. It means do try it. Okay, this is all experimental and we're all learning from each other. And if you have success, tell us, share it. Now, this is just a little experiment that I did. So what I did is I took my shot glass, and this first glass is just the normal water with no frequencies applied at all, and it's been frozen. And that's what it looks like, okay? So the next one down, I actually used a sine wave. And what I've done is I've used, the program was Vision Improvement, and it had 4 frequencies. So the first glass is each frequency for 45 seconds, meaning that the total is 3 minutes. The next glass is the Stephanie R. Rogue method, 0.5 second dwell, but the program itself ran for a total of 3 minutes. And the next one is 180 second dwell per frequency, meaning that it ran for 12 minutes total. So what I did is I printed the stickers, stuck them onto the glass, and then put the glass into the freezer to see what would happen. So we're talking same water, no frequencies, and using a sine wave with the different methods. And the idea is you just have a look and go, well, which looks best? Now, these ones at the bottom, these are using the universal square H-bomb. So this is the one that Jonathan was using in his demonstration. And some people think that the universal square H-bomb introduces too many harmonic frequencies. Does it? I don't know. But all I'm saying is these were the same water, same frequencies, and again, 45 second dwell, 0.5 second dwell, 180 second dwell, and you can see that they look different. Now, if I was to try and choose one that I preferred the look of aesthetically, I probably liked the sine wave. And to get the sine wave, what I did is I used the Healing JW preset, but then went into the settings tab and clicked on the sine wave. So I wanted it specifically to be sine wave. So, you know, experiment and see what happens and see what you like. Okay, now we get to the Q&A part. So will the EMF be imprinted? There may be some low frequency from EMF, but because the lower frequencies take longer to imprint, it's generally considered that the EMF is not retained. And this is a link here to Spooky's blog that says that. Can imprinted stickers be used by people who have not done terrain? Well, they can, but it is recommended to run the terrain protocol before starting any rife frequency treatment, because if you skip terrain, the detox pathways, you know, may be blocked and you may not absorb the healing frequencies as well. Okay, how long does an imprinted sticker last and how long to keep them, how to keep them to stay on better? Well, according to Gloria, up to 2.5 years, and that is fantastic. I have to say, none of mine have ever lasted 2.5 years, but that's because I'm pretty rough with them. I mean, if they're in my shoe, they're being stomped on as I walk the dog 3 or 4 times a day. So they get some pretty hard wear. But because they're so cheap and so quick to produce, I'm not really worried about it. You know, I can make another one in, you know, in a very few minutes and I have it just ready to use. But it is good to know that they can last a very long time. Just don't let them get wet. Don't let them get worn out by stomping on them in your shoes. Don't expose them to sun and strong magnetic fields. If you want to, you could put it in a plastic coin holder or keep them in a pocket, or you know, attach them to the back of a pendant might be another way to keep it nice. Can you imprint water in plastic containers? You can, but we recommend using glass containers without the plastic lid or paper label. So if you want to get the best results out of your frequency imprinting, use the best materials that you can and use the best water that you can. So some people will opt for distilled water to get the best results. If you've imprinted something, store it the best way that you can, keeping it in a cool, dark place if you're not using it for a while. And experiment. Just have fun and experiment. Now, on the last page. Okay, so if you want to talk to the man himself and book one-on-one training with Jonathan Ellis, this is his website here, and he has so many links there. It'll blow you away. He has got links to his past trainings. He's got a lot of links to handouts and information. And if you want to book a one-on-one session with him, there's a link here that you can click to schedule an appointment with him. If you've got any questions, you can also contact me, and this is my email address here, debbie.rich.spooky2@hotmail.com. And of course, you can ask Spooky, support@spooky2-mall.com. Now, just bear with me. I'm just going to go to the Q&A section and we'll just see what questions people have got. Let's see. Okay. All right, I'm just going to start at the top. Okay, this is from Annette. She saw in previous seminars a suggestion to use universal square H-bomb to create stickers. But when I do that, I do not see the expected frequency at the generator. Aha, yes. Specifically, I was coding 528 and I saw 33. Sensitive folks I gave the stickers to noticed a difference between a healing created sticker and a universal square sticker. And why? Okay, so that is in the settings part of your software. So let me just see if I can bring up my software and show you where to see what this is doing. Okay. Sorry, it's just installing my software now. And
no generators found. No.
It's just reading the frequencies and it'll do the encyclopedia and we'll be in. Okay, so what it's really doing when it's doing the universal square H-bomb is it's using a wave cycle multiplier. And so the wave cycle multiplier times by the frequency that you saw on your generator, your 33, will give you 528. So I'm just going to grab my calculator here. I'm guessing the wave cycle multiplier was probably 16, but I'm just going to double check. So 33 times 16 is 528. Okay. The software will be open in just a moment. But so that's what it's doing. So here we go. Let's go to here. I'll go share. This one. Right. Now, so I'm going to go to my shell empty preset, remote, universal square H-bomb, and I'm going to go here to the settings page. So some of you may not have spent a lot of time on the settings page to see what's going on here. But what we're looking at, this is your, see how it's got the wee dot here saying this has chosen the square H-bomb, and this WCM is your wave cycle multiplier, and it has got the number 16 there. So what it's saying essentially is that it's going to do 16 repetitions of the wave, but it's going to use 1/16 of the frequency that you chose, and 16 times 1/16 is equivalent to 1, so you're getting the frequency that way. If we changed the wave cycle multiplier to a different number, like say I changed it to 528, then 528 divided by 528 would be 1, and you would have seen 1 on the generator, just as an example. If you're wanting to change your settings here, these are the options of the waveforms that you can choose. Okay, so when I was doing my experiment using a sine wave, I came up here and I chose the sine wave up here, and you can see on the graph here, see that's what it looks like. This is what it's going to do on output 1, this is what it's going to do on output 2, and this is what it's going to combine like. Okay, if I go back to this one here, which was the square H-bomb, this is the waveform for a square H. So, and this is why it's called the universal H-bomb, is that it's sort of going pulse and then pulse. And if you think about those two pulses and the bit in the middle, that's the H. That's the H shape. So that's what that was doing. Okay, now let's go back and find the Q&A. All right, next question. In one video, John mentioned not using large quantities of water on the transmitter coil. What's the actual upper limit? I'm not sure. That's a question for the team at Spooky 2, but I've certainly had no trouble with a little glass like this, and I would say that up to there is probably 250 ml. I've not had any trouble with that amount, and I've used probably up to 500 ml in passata jars, which are a bigger jar, but still with a thin bottom. But if you really want to, you don't want to put too much weight on the scaler. So I'll leave that for Spooky to say what they think the upper limit is. But if you were wanting to do large quantities, that's when you might try putting the water in between the transmitter and the receiver. Now, next question. Okay. Melinda says, once imprinted, does it stay imprinted or is there a time limit? It stays imprinted as long as it's not exposed to something that's going to wipe the imprint or something that's going to over imprint it. Okay, so in the case of water, we usually don't recommend keeping it longer than a week, but with the stickers, although I've never kept them the length of time that Gloria has, I've certainly had them on the go for a couple of months before I've needed to imprint more, and they certainly seem to be fine. I mean, when I'm using it with the dog's collar, because I have them inside, even if he's outside in the sun, okay, it's not potentially not perfect because it might be a hot day, but I have the stickers in between the two layers of the collar so that they have some protection. And, they seem to have worked for me very, very well. Most recently, I had a little dog here with cancer, and she is coming back to me soon, which I'm very, very pleased about, actually. She had a lot of the cancerous tissue removed surgically, but there was some that they just couldn't do it. And it was, predominantly the mammary glands. So there were big, hard lumps in the nipples, and The vet said, oh, look, this dog's only got months to live. Well, it's been months already. And I've been imprinting water for her, and I've been imprinting stickers for her. And because her situation is different, the stickers that I printed were blood cleanser, which is one of the programs that that is recommended when you're dealing with cancer. So I printed the blood cleanser, and then I printed some stickers with breast cancer. And I did also give her supplements. I gave her the mushrooms, the reishi, the cordyceps, the shiitake. I gave her curcumin and boswellia, which is your frankincense. I fed her very well on a raw diet, and I massaged her tummy every day with a nice little product that's got castor oil and calendula and things like that in it. I also had her on a supplement in the mornings, which has got dandelion and milk thistle, things like that, with a binder, a zeolite binder. And those little nipple lumps were getting smaller and softer and going away. Now, the reason she's coming back to me is that she's become so strong, the person that's taken her can't manage the strength that she has anymore. So I am really excited to have her come back and just see how she's doing, because I think this is a real step in the right direction for her. So no, I mean, look, long story short, I don't have access to that dog at the moment. So she's still on the original stickers that I imprinted. There's no guarantees that the gentleman that has her now is actually feeding her the supplements I was feeding or continuing the raw diet. But as long as those stickers have stayed inside the collar, all is good. Colleen says, I have a horse I want to help. What do you suggest I could use for imprinting? She's out in pasture with the other horses. I don't want to put a halter on her all the time. Oh, isn't that an interesting one? Okay. Horses are quite sensitive too. So the horse might not want you to put a necklace or something like that on her. Depends, I guess, what your relationship is like with the horse as to how they're going to accept strange things being put on them. But I'm wondering if you could braid something into the mane, possibly. Could you imprint something and braid it into the mane so it's not obtrusive and it's just there? I don't know how you'd go with stickers with a horse running around in pasture, because the stickers will come off and fall on the ground. So if the other idea might be like whether you can attach some sort of necklace if the horse would tolerate a necklace. But if not, I'd try braiding something into the mane so it's just there and connected in some way. If anybody else has got any ideas, please feel free to answer Colleen in the chat. Anything else you can think that we could put on a horse? Okay, Meg says, can you imprint the crystal into the water? If rose quartz is love, wouldn't you need imprinting that? What happens to the crystal's natural healing properties if you imprint it with something else? Okay, good questions. So what I do with my crystals periodically, once they've been played with and they've had things imprinted in them, I will actually take them outside and I put them out in the sunshine, and if possible in contact with the ground, and I let them just get back to their original state. So I put them in direct bright sunshine and leave them out in the sun, in contact with the ground if I can, so that they can just be themselves. And then I feel that after that they are fine to imprint again. And yes, you say you don't want to imprint into crystal. Crystals do have their own frequencies. So you could use the rose quartz on your scaler and put that on the receiver side with something that you want to imprint into on the transmitter side. Or even if you don't want to imprint into something on the transmitter side, you could just go and sit in the field with rose quartz on the receiver side to receive the benefits of the rose quartz. Okay, Jan says, how can you imprint a dog's collar when it's cloth with a little metal? So increase the amount of metal. So this one's my dog's old collar, hasn't got the tag on it, but and the little toad's gone and put himself to bed. Okay, well, normally he has a beautiful tag, a beautiful metal tag attached to his collar as well. And you could take that off and you could imprint just that name tag part of the collar. Otherwise, if it's something with metal parts on it and I'm imprinting it on the scaler, I try and make sure that the metal buckles and the metal clasps are the bits that are like on that little dot on the coil, and I don't worry too much if the rest of it is hanging off. Otherwise, like I said, you can imprint stickers and put them between the layers of the collar. Okay, experiment and see how you go. Okay, and great. Okay, Spooky's answering your next one, Annette. Okay, Serena says, can you imprint water with the hand cylinders? That is really interesting because you can use the hand cylinders in a foot bath. So why not? I think the answer to that is probably yes. So I would say, please do try it and report back. Michael says, when freezing imprinted water for examining, what's best? A drop on a slide and look under a microscope. Oh, you've got a nice microscope, have you? Well, yeah, look, if you've got a microscope, do it. I don't have a microscope, so I've got shot glasses in a freezer, and I froze my water, and as it thawed out, I can assure you I shotted them all. And I thought they were all pretty great, but I did prefer the sine wave ones. But yes, if you want to get really technical, do it. Put it on a slide and have a look with a microscope, and please share what you find because it would be really, really interesting. Okay, now Anke says, how do I program tissue factor? You don't have to. So you see here on the programs tab, and I'm just going to check that I am actually showing you the programs tab. Good, good, good. Looks like I am. Okay, here on the programs tab, there's a tick box right here. Okay, and that's all you need to do. You tick or untick it. Now, so Annette says, what is the tissue factor? So yeah, look, it is I had to look this up as well, but basically it's about the calculations that are used in the MW and DNA databases, and the calculations are based on speed of light, but things are not going to pass through us the way they're going to pass through air. I mean, we're a lot denser and a lot more solid. So all it is, it's a compensatory factor for the fact that we are solid. Now, Kim says, can you use any kind of blank sticker as long as it's a holographic sticker? Okay, it's got to be a holographic sticker to get the frequencies. Okay, so you can usually get them down at the news agency, order online, or if you're very, very lucky, Spooky 2 might do another promotion at some stage and actually have them available from themselves again, because they're really cute. They're really cute. Can you imprint a sticker for the dog to avoid him getting ticks? Let me think what programs I might use for that. Let's have a look. Let's see. See, the programs here are going to be more about tick diseases after he's been bitten. You want to avoid it before. Talent. Okay. Look, there's an SD, which is a sample digitizer based program here. So that essentially means it's based on an essential oil. You'll notice that the frequencies are quite high. Okay, so we're looking at sort of 260,000, 575,000. That might be something you could try. Otherwise, you might look up ingredients that are commonly in tick repellent. So for example, neem. Let's have neem. No, there's nothing for neem. Citronella. You might have to do some playing around to see what you find. Okay, so there's some MW frequencies here. You know, it's try them and see what you can do. Certainly worth a go. For my dog, there we go. I don't have to Google too hard to find out what to avoid. That is one of the products, Neem Pet, that I actually spray on my dog. But you have to spray it on very regularly to repel ticks and fleas and things like that. And even on that product, there's no guarantee with it. It is a repellent, not a guaranteed potion. Okay, Ikram says, will sticking a Spooky 2 holographic sticker under the glass of water being imprinted be a good idea? I'm thinking that if we keep topping up water in the glass as it is consumed, the new water gets imprinted too. Okay, so are you talking about doing this on the coil or on the scaler? If you're doing it on the scaler, I personally feel it will imprint faster than using the coil. If you were using the laser from the top, that's another good, look, it's all a good question. So I think really you would need to experiment and see how you go. So there's 3 ways that you could do it. If I was going to do it, look, actually, I think if I was going to do it, I would probably use the same program and imprint the sticker in the remote. Oh, would I? No, because you want to imprint the water and the sticker at the same time. Look, I think in that case, if you were using the scaler, putting the sticker underneath the glass would work. And yes, you can drink the water as you go. But do you really need to do the sticker in the glass? The idea with imprinting the sticker is that you can then stick it onto a glass of water, which is what I did with those shot glasses to have a look at the pattern. And the pattern does come through. So look, experiment. This whole section of the Spooky 2 is experimental. Now, Sarah says, can you use the Rogue method for terrain? You could try, but when you're using something like the terrain is to open up the detox pathways. So I would still run the terrain the whole 11 days to get the best effect out of it. You could use the Rogue method to imprint, say, preset by preset for stickers or something. You could do that. But if you were to try and imprint the whole terrain, because the terrain is 15 separate presets, and that's a lot of frequencies. So I don't know that it would be ideal to imprint all of them all at the same time on the same sticker. And even with terrain, the way it starts with removing heavy metals, removing chemicals, removing systemic toxins, and then at the end is where it does the lymph support and the kidney support and the liver support and things like that. Sometimes I almost think you might want to do the terrain the other way round and start with the organ support before going to the detox, the heavy metals, the detox, the chemicals. So you could try it, but I think it would be best to do the terrain for the recommended period of time because we know it has results then. And I just don't know if the organs and detox pathways will respond quickly enough if you're doing the Rogue method. Okay, Laurie says she's new and what frequency would she use for Hashimoto's? Laurie, what you do, okay, if you want to find out what to do for Hashimoto's, you've got 2 ways to go. So first of all, download the software and have a play with it. Even if you haven't bought any equipment at all, the software is free to download. And I downloaded it for a couple of months before I actually made my first purchase because I wanted to just see what it was and see how it worked. So, like reading a book, we work from left to right. So across here, we start with the presets tab on the left. So the first thing you could do is you could type Hashimoto's here and see, is there a preset that someone has made for Hashimoto's? And yes, there is. So there are some in the DNA database, and there are some in what's called the David Halliday experimental frequencies database, which you have to download separately. Now, when I look at these ones here for Hashimoto's in the DNA database, you'll see that there are some for coils, some for contact, laser, plasma, remote, and scalar. So you would need to choose the one for the right piece of equipment. So let's say that you're using contact, and I click on that one there. Now it brings up the program notes and it tells me this is a program which runs for 1 hour and 12 minutes. And these are the the DNA strains that it's looking for and going after. Okay, that's one way you could do it. So you would choose this here by double clicking on it, and then even if you don't alter anything else because it's a preset, you can go straight to the control tab, overwrite your generator, and hit the start button, and you're away. Otherwise, if you want to get a little bit more involved in it, you can start with what's called a shell empty preset here, and you choose the method you're going to be applying it. So let's say it's still contact, okay? And this is where it gets a little bit more technical, because you've got to decide, are you trying to heal Hashimoto's, okay? Or are you trying to kill a pathogen that's causing the Hashimoto's? So you've got killing and healing presets, or if in doubt, and often we are in doubt, we've got the universal square H-bomb, which can be used for both killing and healing. My personal belief is that Hashimoto's is caused by a pathogen, so I would probably use a killing preset. But if you use the universal square H-bomb, there's no harm with that either. You can still use the healing preset, and even if killing was the most appropriate, healing will still work, but it'll just take longer. So once you've chosen your empty shell, then you would go to the Programs tab, and up here, I'm just going to type Hashi. Now it's going to bring up all the programs that have something to do with Hashimoto's. Now, you might decide to search for other keywords, like you might decide to search for thyroid, or, there are other keywords that you might want to look for, and then you can choose programs here, okay? And let's say we decide to pop in thyroiditis. Maybe we decide to pop in that one as well. Okay, and you can see down the bottom here that I've added 2 programs. It looks like they've got significant overlapping common frequencies, because the total running time is here 30 minutes. Okay, you can change how long you want it to run for. Do you want it to go through once, twice, indefinitely? Control, overwrite, and there you have a program there. Okay. The other thing you could do for Hashimoto's is that you could run biofeedback. And if you want to message me after this presentation, I can send you the slides for the webinar that I did on biofeedback. Okay. Maximus says, is there a difference in effectiveness between an imprinted sticker and contact from the Generator X? And I'm going to say yes. Because with an imprinted sticker, all the frequencies are in the sticker and they're all being applied to your body all at once, okay? When you're doing contact, it's sequential, okay? So you're getting one frequency, then the next frequency, then the next frequency, and so on. I would also, my belief is that contact mode is a stronger transmission mode than the stickers. I would say that the stickers are one of the gentler modes. So if I were to try and sort of rank the different modes of transmission in order of strength, I would start with central, which is your plasma. And I find that is particularly effective for the DNA database. I really like it for that. And then I would, it's really hard to decide where to rank Scalar, but I would be putting it up there with the plasma. But I use the Scalar in a different way. So we think of the central as the killing machine and the Scalar as the healing machine. And so if I were, trying to heal something, it's almost a philosophical difference. Are you trying to kill a pathogen? For example, are you trying to kill a cancer and then you recover? Or are you trying to heal the body so your immune system is boosted and your body kills the cancer? What are you trying to do? 2 different ways of looking at the same problem. But if I have something acute, so for example, when my dog got a UTI, now again, I always use natural supplements and herbs and things like that as well. So my dog got a UTI. I noticed it straight away. So that night for dinner, he had green tea, apple cider vinegar, and raw honey in his dinner. He hopped into bed and he had the Fanatron tube playing the DNA database preset for UTI, and that was tucked right up against him. In the morning for breakfast, we continued with the green tea, apple cider vinegar, and raw honey, but the UTI was gone. Like it That was gone in 12 hours. It really was. But I continued to do the green tea and apple cider vinegar and honey again that night as well, just to really, make sure it was gone and it wasn't coming back. So it's really good for things like that. When my mum had a fall and she injured herself, she's elderly, she falls a lot. She was on prednisone for a number of years. And so when she falls, she peels like an onion. The skin just comes off in layers and we're down to raw flesh. And she had a fall that was so bad, the doctor said, I don't think this will ever heal. I think that you're too old, that I don't think the skin will be able to regrow. I don't think it'll regenerate. I think you're going to, have to basically wear pads and have them changed regularly from now on. So she came to visit me, and I took her to my local doctor, who pretty much fell off their chair and was absolutely horrified and went, oh my God, this is really, really, really bad. So they redressed her wounds and she came home to stay with me, and I popped her into bed with the scalar each night. And for the first few nights, it was just pure scalar, but I gave her some high dose vitamin C at the same time. And then for the last couple of nights before we went back to the doctor for our next week checkup, I had frankincense, myrrh, and I think it was clove essential oil on the receiver coil of the scalar, because by this time I'd discovered Mum had pretty yucky toenails, and we were dealing with that as well. So we went back to the doctor after a week. The band-aids came off. Some of them didn't go back on because the skin flaps had reattached. And what typically happens with my mum is when she gets a skin flap, it will become necrotic and it'll become an ulcer, and it can take months and months and months before it will actually ever heal up. But we took the band-aids off. The skin was pink. The skin was looking good. The skin flaps had attached. And the nurse said, we don't even need to redress this one. And the doctor was so impressed. And she's like, what did you do? And it's like, I don't really think you'd believe me if I told you. So she just let us go home, and we continued with the scalar. So, scalar is great for that. And then the next level down, I would put your contact. I think contact is absolutely brilliant. It's also very convenient. You can attach yourself to contact while you're watching telly for an hour at night. You can, if you're doing something like the cold laser wrist, I'll often wear that to bed overnight and do a blood cleanser program on that. And I just have the generator on the floor and this running. There's so much you can do in contact mode. You can use the hand cylinders and do a foot bath. You can connect it to the PEMF coil and tuck this under your pillow and go to sleep. And I think the contact, it's not just about the TENS pads. There's so much you can do with it. The next level down would be your remote, and I would put the stickers underneath that in terms of strength. But the advantage of the remote and the stickers is that they're with you 24/7. So, you might do a contact session or a plasma session or whatever you happen to do, but it might only be for an hour because that's the amount of time that you've got. Whereas the remote is going to run 24/7, repeat, 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 and the stickers are the same. And that's where you get additional benefit. Now, Rhonda says, do you ask your crystals for permission to imprint into them? No, I have not done that. But I do like my crystals, and I always hold them in my hand before we do anything, and I pop them out in the sun and let them get cleansed periodically. But I haven't felt the need to ask them for permission, because I feel that they're, I feel that we like each other. I like them and I feel that they like me back. So just, when I'm buying a crystal, I'm only going to buy a crystal that I like the look of and I like the feel of. If those things don't resonate with me, it's not in my collection. So I guess we chose each other in that sense. Okay, now Josephine says, what about clothing? Now, you could potentially imprint into a silver fabric, and some of the grounding sheets and things like that have silver threads in them. So that's an idea. And on that note, Spooky 2 makes some like contact accessories, the little socks and the wristbands and things which have silver in them. And you could put those on the scalar because they're bulky. Some of the thin things like the knee pads you could potentially put into the remote maybe, but this is all experimental. Otherwise, if you were just trying to imprint into something like a linen or a cotton, I don't know how that would go. But again, try it, see what happens. And if you have success, please report back. Okay, Ellen says, can you put crystals in the water while imprinting the water? I would say yes. I really would. If I was doing that on the scaler, I would say yes, but I could also put them beside each other and imprint them together that way. I'm not sure why you would want to put them in the water while imprinting, but I mean, I don't think there's anything to stop you doing that. Okay, Marilyn says, someone has said in the Facebook group that when posting imprinted stickers, we should wrap them in foil before posting. Any thoughts? Because I post them out to clients around the world. Now that is a really good point, because I'm never quite sure with posting stuff what Australia Post does. I know that they have a machine that sorts the post according to postcode so that the actual posties don't have to sort it manually. I don't know what type of magnetic equipment it goes through on its way from you to the next person. But I think it's a really good idea to try and protect them whatever way you can. And if you wrap your phone in foil, it certainly stops the cell phone signal coming through. So it's certainly worth a try. But if you post them out to your clients and they feel that, actually, this is another way you could test it. Suppose you send the stickers out and send them a spare, which they put on a glass of water and freeze the glass. If they see a nice pattern in the glass, then the imprint has made it from you to them. Just an idea. And if anyone else has got good ideas for Marilyn, please post it in the chat. Okay, Jackie also wants to imprint a metal dog tag with frequencies to keep ticks and fleas away. And I say, have a go. Absolutely have a go. Okay, Carolina says, why does it have to be a holographic sticker? Can it be any other type of sticker? And is there any specific specification for the right type? With regards to right type, no, but it does need to be holographic so that it gets the frequencies. If it's just a paper sticker, it's just a piece of paper, like the piece of paper that you put your fingernails in when you put it into the remote. We're wanting to actually imprint the frequencies into something. So it does need to be holographic. Mickey says, I read on the forum that the stickers only need to be in the auric field of the user to be effective. That is something David Halliday said, I believe. But now I'm hearing they should be placed on the body close to the area being targeted. Can you please clarify? Look, it's entirely up to you. So again, this is experimental. So you're going to find lots of people with lots of different opinions on lots of different things, lots of opinions on what waveform to use, how many frequencies to use, and where you need to place them. I often don't stick them on the body. I stick them in my shoes, or I stick them on the back of necklaces, or I stick them on things that are going in my pocket rather than on me directly. And I think they work that way just beautifully. But yes, they need to be close to you in some way. Same as when you're running the remote preset for the David Halliday frequencies, they say that you need to be close to the remote. So when I am running his frequencies via remote, I actually have a generator sitting up here by my work desk, so that I'm literally right here. Now, how far does your auric field extend? I don't know. So that is another question, but the thing is, experiment, try it, and if you feel you're getting the benefit, you're getting the benefit. Okay, now Anonymous says that's it, just one PEMF coil. I'm not sure what you mean by that question, but yes, you only need one PEMF coil if you want to imprint on the PEMF coil. I mean, you could set up a whole lot of them if you want to imprint lots of things at the same time, but otherwise, yeah, you can do it with just one PEMF coil. If that's not what you meant, please ask again. Now, read the sticker. Does the hologram side need to face the body? Well, on my stickers, yes, because there's no hologram on the other side, and that's the sticky side. So you know, like only one side of the sticker is sticky. So if I'm sticking it in my shoe, it is facing me, but if I'm sticking it on me, it's facing out. I don't think it really matters. You know, just stick it either onto something and have it near you, or stick it onto yourself. But to be honest, I actually don't like sticking things on me with the glue, because you don't know what the chemicals are all the time. And I am probably more wary than most about chemicals and things. Okay, Anonymous says, would the imprinted holographic sticker survive being mailed overseas? And I think test it. Send two. Send one for them to actually use, and send one for them to put on a glass of water and freeze, and let's see what pattern they get. That'll show you is something happening or something not happening. And if they want to do a full test, tell them to take 2 little shot glasses, one with normal water, no sticker, one with normal water, put the sticker on it, freeze them both at the same time for the same amount of time. Is there a difference? Okay, Desmond says, how does the detox step play into this? What is the detoxification before wearing an imprinted frequency? Well, the recommendation is that you run the terrain program prior to starting any frequency treatment. Now, that may or may not be possible depending on whether the person you're doing the stickers for or whatever you're doing is with you or not. If they're not, you know, you can do an awful lot to detox even without Spooky. We were detoxing before Spooky came along by grounding, sunbathing, breathing exercises, drinking fresh water, and the things that you eat are important. The chemicals that you have in your home and that you put on your body, if we're talking about makeup and shampoo, they all play a part. I make my own clothes these days because I like to wear cotton and linen, or wool. I do still buy wool if I'm going to wear woolens. But I have thrown out all of my polyester. I don't have any synthetics in my clothing or the bed sheets or anything like that. So all of these things can help with detox. And actually, last night I was listening to a fascinating talk about PEMF, because I was on my Miramate Magic Pro PEMF mat at the time. And this is something else I haven't shown you yet. This is my Whole Tones CD collection that I bought myself for Christmas. This was my Christmas present to me. And these are the solfeggio frequencies that I play through the PEMF mat. But they were talking last night about using PEMF for detoxification as well. So, you know, there is a lot of things that someone can be doing. You know, red light therapy springs to mind as another thing that someone could try. There's a lot of things that someone could be doing. One of the cheapest would be going for a walk, like literally go for a walk and get the lymph moving, and, you know, breathing in and out and drinking clean water. There's a lot of things someone could do to detox, even if they don't have access to the terrain program, before you start putting stickers on them. Now, Isabel says, should you stop using magnetic water for drinking while using the stickers? I don't know what you mean by magnetic water. Could you clarify that question for me, and I'll try and answer that again. Anonymous says, please put up Jonathan again. My pleasure. I will quickly go to Jonathan's lovely smiling face. He's absolutely marvelous. He's a really, really, really lovely person. But there is Jonathan's details here. rifework.com is his website. That's his email address there, rifework@gmail.com. And if you go to that link there, that's the scheduler to book a one-on-one training with him. And he is just such a lovely person, and he's, you know, so willing and so helpful. Now, Patricia says, I recently received some holographic stickers with an order I placed. Are they already imprinted? Not deliberately. So could they have picked up a frequency coming through the post? Possibly, if they went through something magnetic coming from China to wherever you live. But that's easy enough to fix. The remote is magnetic. So if the remote is turned off, okay, you could put the sticker in and just run it through the remote, or you could place something magnetic near it. I've got some really neat little makeup mirrors which have magnets. I could just run a little magnet around it to clear them. I could put them out in the hot, bright sunshine for a little bit, or just on a table in the sunshine. So, you know, you can start with a blank slate. Okay. Anonymous says, what would be a justifiable price to charge for these treatments? Well, Jesus said, freely ye have received, now freely give. That probably doesn't help you at all. But look, my opinion is that whatever gifts and talents I've been given, you know, I'm here to help people who, you know, who ask for help or need help to the best of my abilities. Yeah, that is a really difficult question, because if you're going to, you know, charge for these things, is it going to be as effective? I'm just thinking, you know, in my mind, what we're doing here is really, it's for the benefit of all. And, you know, the trainers, including myself, we do charge for one-on-one training, but in terms of charging for treatment, I don't think I could answer that, because there are questions that come up with that in terms of insurance and guarantee and, you know, all kinds of things. Isabel says, can I go through scanners and the airport machines without removing the frequencies? And the answer to that is I don't know. So what you could do is, if you are going to try it, you know, you might want to carry something on you, or put it in your carry-on luggage. Have one that's protected. You could try the wrapping in foil and have one that's unprotected. And when you get where you're going, pop them into water, freeze it, and see what happens. Is there a difference or is there not? Okay, Desmond says, I understand that sine wave is used for healing and square is used for killing. Well, square is used for both. It's killing or healing. What are the other waveforms used and what do they do? So if you want to see more about the waveforms, there's the help guide in your software. And if you open that up, it'll give you a bit of an explanation about the different waveforms. But usually a killing waveform has a sudden increase or drop. So they often look like little triangles or sawtooths, like that. So you know, have a wee look and see if there are other waveforms that you want to use. There are some people who think that the sine wave is the best one for imprinting, because it is a gentle healing curve. And most of the time we're imprinting healing frequencies. We're not usually printing pathogenic frequencies. Colleen says, could I use some of the horse's hair instead of a fingernail, or some hoof trimmings in a remote? You can use dog's nail clippings in the remote. Now, the question is a horse's hoof quite the same? Does it still have DNA in it? You can certainly try it. If you were going to use the hair, so when we use human hair, you've actually got to pull it out so that you get the bulb attached, and it dries out pretty quick. So you've got to yank another piece out reasonably quickly, like a day or two sort of thing. So the horse might not appreciate you continuing to pull bits of hair out. So I would be inclined to try the hoof trimmings. And just see if that does work, because you can file a dog's nails and use the filings from dog's nails. It's just whether or not the DNA is in the hooves, and I don't know the answer to that. Okay, Aureline says, how long to leave the stickers in the remote to imprint a maintenance detox preset? That is your choice, and it depends. Are you going to use the Stephanie R. Rogue method, where it's just going like flash, 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 flash? Okay, so you could run it once, or you could leave it running for, you know, for up to 3 minutes, or you could leave it running longer than that. It's your choice. Or are you going to run the frequencies for a longer period of time? So if you were going to do that, to imprint the maintenance detox preset, you could change. You could either save it as a custom program with a new dwell time, or when you're starting it up, you can go to the Programs tab and you can change the dwell multiplier to a decimal to reduce the dwell time. And I would say experiment and see what you like best. Now, Isabel says, how do you check to see if the frequencies are still on? My answer to that would be, if it's something like a sticker, put it on a glass, put water in the glass and freeze it. Do you get the same pattern that you had when you started? Other than that, I don't know any other way to test to visibly test and see if the frequencies are there. There are some very clever people who can use pendulums and dowse, but unfortunately I'm not one of them, but that is potentially another way that they could test and see if the frequencies are still there. Okay, Katrina says, regarding metal imprinting in the scaler, doesn't the metal take away from the scaler? Well, it's not in the field, it's on the transmitter coil. So I haven't noticed any problems with it. Although, to be honest, most of the time I am imprinting water or crystals. But on occasion, I've done the dog's little tag, or I've done rings, and I mean, the rings are tiny. So, when I go into the scalar field myself, I usually don't remove all my jewelry. I've usually still got my necklace on, and I've usually still got my rings on. So, although it's not ideal, you can get away with a bit of metal because sometimes it's unavoidable. When I'm trying to scan a dog that won't sit still, I put them in this metal crate, and I have to scaler both sides of the metal crate. And it's just what has to happen. Otherwise, the dog's going to get up and run away and not sit there for the 10 minutes that it takes to scan him. So, try it and see what you think. Oh, Louise has given us a great suggestion for your horse. She says imprint water and spray the mouth. There you go. That's a great idea. Okay, Katrina says, I haven't found a program from Cushing's. I'm not sure, got one for Restless Leg. What am I doing wrong? Okay, so are you on the presets tab or are you on the programs tab? Let's just type in Cushing here. Sometimes it's very, very sensitive as to what it's going to bring up. So I've got one here for Cushing's, but you notice how I've also got these adrenal programs coming up as well. Oh, sorry, you can't see that screen. Sorry, let me just go back to the software page. Beg your pardon. Okay, so I've just gone to the programs tab and I've typed in Cushing here, and here is the Cushing's program that's come up. But these ones here for adrenal have Cushing's in the encyclopedia entry, which makes sense because they're involved with the Cushing's. So you can try that. Now, restless leg, let's just try restless. And I'm only, here we go. So if you're not finding something, just check whether you were looking on the presets tab or the programs tab, and did you have all of the databases ticked? Because you see how this program here is an EDTF. If I untick this, now the program has disappeared. So it hasn't disappeared from the database, it's just that I can no longer see it because I don't have that database selected. Rita says, how often do I have to do terrain? And I can see that Spooky2 is answering you there. It's entirely up to you. Some people like to do it once a month. And I am one of those people, and I like to do it a lot. So I usually have 8 remotes running on my husband and myself. 2 are for his biofeedback, 2 are for my biofeedback. And that leaves 4 that we run on programs for both of us because we are entangled together. So we run, typical old people programs because we are old people. So we run things like the daily wellness, we run things like the vision improvement, we run things like a multivitamin, we run things like just a general detox, and quite often that detox is the terrain program running. Okay, Amber says the Spooky2 page that gives us access to the recordings, it's Spooky2 Academy events page, and Spooky2 is writing back to you right now. Saul says, would high frequencies on the coil hurt the ears? I haven't, well, to be honest, when I use the coil, I'm usually using low frequencies, and I've not found any problems for myself and the dogs who are, and I have a number of dogs around the house all the time. None of them have ever complained about any of the strange frequencies that I'm doing. Occasionally, I do hear very, very slight frequencies, sometimes when I'm using the scaler, sometimes when I'm using the generator. But none of it has ever bothered me or ever affected my hearing, and it certainly has never distressed or bothered the dogs. Okay, Monique says you said we can imprint copper jewelry. I assume if they have magnet implant inside the bracelet, it won't imprint. That is a really good point. Yeah, so if it's got a magnet in it, yeah, I would say not the go. So when I'm talking about copper jewelry, I'm talking about just an ordinary copper bracelet or ordinary rings or ordinary necklaces. Anonymous says, how many generators do you have? And I think at the moment I've got 24 and number 25 is on the way. You can never have too many generators. So I use them not only for, my family, my friends, neighbors, people that I meet that, anywhere that need help, George says, is distilled water better than tap water? And Spooky is writing back to you right now. Edward says, does the microwave imprint water? I don't like my microwave at all. I will use it to heat up, one of those little heating pads that goes in the bed. But other than that, I avoid my microwave like the plague. I would not put anything that I'm going to eat in the microwave, or I certainly wouldn't want to drink water that's been microwaved. I'm not a fan of the microwave at all. However, that is just my opinion, and I am but one person. So, if you feel that, you get some benefit, that is up to you. Now, Julie says, how can I duplicate my supplements? Okay, so you can look in the MW database because a lot of supplements are already there. So if you give me an example, we could, we can look it up. But let's say you were looking for, I'm just going to check we're still looking at the software. Let's say you were looking for something like magnesium. There we go. So I would scroll down here to the MW database and go through these ones here and have a look and see, what have we got? We've got different forms of magnesium here as MW entries. So you could try imprinting one of those that already exists. Or if you want to duplicate your exact supplement, what you could do is I would use the scaler and I would put the supplement on the receiver coil and a glass of water on the transmitter coil and let the frequency of the supplement go into the water. That's another way of doing it. Now, if the supplement you're looking for is not in the MW database and you don't have scaler, there are instructions on the SpookyTube blog about how you can go to a website, find the actual chemical formula for what you're looking at. So if you look at your supplement bottle, it says contains, these particular forms of whatever it is. You can convert that into a molecular weight yourself and then add it into the database as a custom program for yourself. Okay, Desmond says, you've mentioned imprinting the frequencies into something, which draws a question to what materials are going to receive the frequency into itself. You did mention something with silk. Does cotton, wool, etc. have the same properties or respond as silk? Oh, that is a really interesting question. So there is a line of thought that different materials give out different frequencies. And interestingly enough, there's a reference in the Bible not to wear wool and linen together. And when they test wool and linen together, the frequencies offset each other and it has no benefit. When you wear something which is synthetic, it has an unhelpful frequency for the body. And the more natural fibers, such as your cotton, such as your wool, such as your linen, have frequencies that are more beneficial to the body. Silk is an interesting one because some people say that it has a very healthy frequency and some people say no. And I think the difference is the processing of the silk, because a lot of silk, it gets dyed, it gets, it is treated in various ways. So I still like silk products, but I'm a bit fussy about what type of silk and I try to get things that are as natural as possible. Now, in terms of imprinting, I don't know that you can imprint a frequency into those things, but you can try and see what happens. The things that I have tried have been things like crystals, like water, metals. What else have we tried? Well, really things that are based on, essential oils, but things that are based on those, I haven't tried with fabrics. Now, Jeremy says, can you imprint orgone with scalar? That's interesting, isn't it? Okay, so this is an orgonite pyramid, and essentially it's got the little crystals in the bottom, and then it has, it's encased in resin, it's got the wee coils and things like that, but it's essentially encased in plastic. So I don't know, Jeremy, I really don't know. My inclination would be no because of the plastic, but I mean, it's filled with all these very interesting things. So I would suggest that you have a go and see what happens and report back. Okay, Isabel has clarified that magnetized water is water that's been placed on magnets for drinking. Okay, so your original question was, can we imprint into that? I would think if it's magnetized, it's going to be the same as the magnetized copper bracelet question, but I don't know for sure. And I'm, I'm not the expert. So I would say have a go, try it, freeze it, and see what happens. So you do it with the magnets and freeze a sample with nothing else added, then try one with the frequencies. And, freeze them together, same, like identical glasses as much as you can, identical length of time in the freezer, and just let's find out. Anonymous says, what about imprinting for kids, and if so, what age? So they usually don't recommend Rife for young children. However, this is very, very gentle. I think you need to ask Spooky to support the answer to that question. And even then, it's not necessarily a question of age, because I am one of the smallest human adults you could find on the planet, but I was this size when I was 11 years old. So until I was 11, I was a gargantuan. I was king of the playground, really. And then I never grew 1 centimeter after the age of 11. So I would say it's more about the body mass than, per se, than the age. Age will play a role, I think, up until the immune system is established and the gut microbiome is established. But beyond that, I would think it would be more weight-based. But I'm going to defer to Spooky 2 for that question. Natalie Smith, what DB do you like to work with? Now, by DB, do you mean database? Because if so, I have a definite preference for Bio and Rust. So this is Bio here, and this is Rust here. I don't ask me why. I really just like them because they are typically low frequencies. But having said that, you can't ignore PROV because that means proven. Okay, if you click on the little question mark here, this brings up what the databases all represent. And I'm just going to show you that page there. So PROV has produced consistent results in virtually all subjects it was used with. So you definitely can't ignore that. That is, that's something to take notice of. But it depends what you're doing. So if it's something like an acute condition, which is a actual pathogen, like for example when the dog got a UTI, that's bacterial. So in that case, I'm going to go with the DNA database, and I'm going to look for something to do with that pathogen. Or if it's like a cold and flu, I might be looking for something in the DNA database as well. But if it's, look, it's just not a hard and fast rule, but those are my favorites, I would say. Here we go. And there we go. Now it has stopped sharing. Let's just go back and we'll share Jonathan's lovely face again. Here he is. Okay, and we'll go back to the Q&A. I think we've almost got to the end of them. Okay. Tanya says, can you imprint silver or gold? Absolutely you can, because I imprint my rings and necklaces, and the necklace is pure silver, and the rings, dodgy as, but probably, they say that they're platinum, but I'll guarantee you they're platinum plated, and I don't know what's really inside them. Oh, Isabel's clarified. The question is, should you drink magnetized water while using the stickers? Will magnetized water make the body not receive the frequencies from the stickers while drinking the water? I do not know the answer to that. But how long does the water stay magnetized once it goes into your stomach and begins to be broken down? I really don't know, and I would have to defer to a greater authority on that one. I don't even know if Spooky 2 support will know the answer to that one, but I do invite you to email support@spooky2-mall.com and ask, or go to the forum. And if you're not sure where the forum is, you go into your software and you go to the internet tab, and you can click on there to go to the forum, and you will find a lot of very technically minded people on the forum who, a lot of the programmers and people there, and they may be able to give you an answer there. Otherwise, you could ask on the Spooky 2 Rife for Life page, but I don't know if anyone will have the answers there for you. Okay, and we're down to the last Q&A. Frederick says, do you use the tissue factor with scalar imprinting? And the answer is no, I don't. No, it's I've never used it with that at all. The scalar is typically low frequencies coming through a scalar field, and you're in the scalar field. So no, you don't need to worry about that at all. And if you tick it on something that it doesn't apply to, I believe it won't have any effect, but you can double check that with support@spooky2-mall.com. Okay. So we've reached the end of the Q&As, and thank you so much for attending. The replay of this will be sent to you all, but you can also find it on Spooky 2 Academy events page if you go looking for it. And I really, if you are interested in imprinting, I really do encourage you to go to rifework.com, which is Jonathan's site, and have a look at some of the resources he's got there. Have a look at some of his past trainings. The man's an absolute legend. And I can't thank him enough for letting me use some of his material here today. He is very, very well versed in imprinting. So thank you so much, and apologies to everyone who got up at 1 a.m. because it's now nearly 3:30 your time. So I will let you go, and I'll see you next time. And thank you so much for attending today.